Hello, friends. Welcome back. I'm Kirsten, your decision coach for the episode. And today we're going to be talking about change. Everybody's favorite thing? Maybe not the people who hang out here, but it is an inevitability. And it's something we all want to keep getting better and better and better at, right? Particularly periods of time that you're experiencing transition and periods of time that you're just dealing with unknowns. Times that you feel like you're in the messy middle, as I say with a lot of my clients, where you're living with question marks. I want to do an episode specifically on some tools and some tactics and some ways of thinking that can help you have a better experience of these periods of time. Because the reality is, they end up eating a lot of our calendar. If you're honest about all right, how much of this year was spent in a normal pattern, in a routine, in a flow, and how much of this year was spent feeling like things were up in the air or dealing with questions and creating some change or processing change. It's a fair amount of our lives that end up being spent dealing with transition, dealing with change, dealing with uncertainties. So let's talk about how to let those chunks of time count more. Let's talk about how to have a little bit more conscious experience, a little bit more intentional experience, so you don't feel like they're totally black hole anomalies in the story of your life. Shall we? Now, I know sometimes these periods of transition and uncertainty do catch us off guard. You can't always plan for them. But the reason that this episode is called Planning for Transitions and Uncertainty is because we can adopt a strategic mindset about these things that are, like we said, inevitable, so that even if something comes up as a surprise in your life, you are more equipped to make choices you like and create results that you like better than if you were just operating on kind of a chaotic, stressful autopilot. But even though we do get caught off guard by life and surprises, a lot of these transition times are anticipatable. That's something we scan for in our coaching. When I'm working with people and we take an outlook at what's the next month going to look like, what are the next few months going to look like, we check for how are we going to pursue your goals? How are we going to keep you in alignment with your values? What can we anticipate feeling like a challenge? Something that's easy to miss is a period of transition. A lot of the time, we are discounting how impactful these periods of time are. We don't think that they are going to be an anticipatable challenge. We don't think this is going to be something that feels a little hard or takes more energy in the next few months because we think we should be great at transitions. We think we should just keep operating as if nothing has changed and show up with our 10 out of 10 perfect energy. What feelings, what stress, what processing? Part of what we do in our coaching conversations is have a more objective perspective at your real life. We look at what's happening right now, what is going to happen, or what might happen. Are your kids going back to school? Is summer coming to an end? If you're listening real time, then yeah, you might be looking at a period of transition, whether you have kids or not. I don't have kids, but I'm definitely feeling the end of summer into fall energetic transition right now. Do you have circumstances changing in your schedule or household that are anticipatable changes from how you have been operating? You're going to need an adjustment period for that. That's what we're talking about when we talk about periods of transition. I have lots of clients, and this is the way that we live in our house, where one partner's gone for some of the time and then they come back. That reintegration period where you have been existing on your own and then all of a sudden somebody else lives in your house full time. That is a period of transition. Right now, I just want you to scan for the next few months. What might be happening in your life, in someone's life, a change in circumstance, schedule, mindset, energy. Whether the plan is to establish a new norm or it's just the next chapter, today specifically, we are looking at that adjustment period between this chapter and the next chapter. We're going to set you up for more success. We're going to save some energy. We're going to make sure that you don't discount that period of life, that you actually get to enjoy a little more and feel a little better about your decisions then. Okay. And last thing I'll say before we get into the tangible tips is you don't have to be able to see these transition periods coming. They can come up and surprise us. I just had this happen in my own life recently where we had a plan for how life was going to go and what was going to happen with Kenny's jobs, our living situation, lots of plans. And then in the matter of a few hours, everything changed drastically. Sometimes you can't plan on it. What you can do is consciously acknowledge we're in a transition time. We're dealing with some uncertainty. Even if you don't know how long it will last, you want to recognize, okay, things are changing. And that's when you can give yourself strong permission to lean into these tools we're going to talk about today so that you can set yourself up. Doesn't mean you aren't allowed to get stressed or overwhelmed or anxious in periods of transition and uncertainty, but we don't want that to be your only experience, right? So the first thing that you're going to do might seem a little counterintuitive, but you're up for it. You're going to decide how you want this time to go. Sometimes all we can plan on is not knowing how we're going to feel and what we're going to think. If you're dealing with a lot of change or a lot of moving parts or a lot of questions, you might not be able to make plans that fill your calendar from top to bottom because you're not going to know what you're dealing with that day. So, given whatever elements are in your control and whatever elements are outside of your control, what I want you to recognize is you have the opportunity to decide, how do I want this period of transition, this period of dealing with uncertainty to go? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? What you're doing by deciding this in advance is giving yourself an anchor, which Lord knows when you are living in question marks, any kind of anchor that can help you feel grounded and know what's important, where do I put my energy, how do I get back to center, is pretty priceless. And you can make this a priority or a goal. We don't have to get nitpicky about the semantics, but what I mean is you can pick a priority for your own focus, energy, time. Let's say your partner's going through some big work change, and that means you might have to be more available to game plan with them or do things that they are unavailable for this period of time. So you can pick what your priority is since your capacity might be affected. You might have less time and energy to do all the things that you would normally do. So you decide in advance the priority for this transition time, when I can't plan for everything and I can't control everything, is getting this one thing done. This is the project I want to finish, or this is the deadline I want to meet, or this is the thing I want to prioritize that you're anchoring to, even though all this other stuff around you might be moving and changing and uncertain. That makes sense? A goal for a period of transition or uncertainty, how you want that time to go, could be something like more of a mindset, an intention, or a vibe. If you have a bunch of health stuff happening and you're going through a period of, okay, lots is going to be changing, lots is going to be unknown until it's known, instead of just accepting the really easy default where your mind or your nervous system decides for you, I just have to be stressed. I have to spend this entire time feeling anxious and depleted, you can decide, all right, my goal for this time is to focus on having a really resilient mindset and having a lot of gratitude for my body and being as present as possible. It's almost as if you're planning for a road trip that you actually don't know where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. So all you can really plan for is, okay, well, what music are we going to listen to? What environment are we going to set up in the car? What snacks are we going to have, right? We're controlling what we can control. And that's not to say that you're micromanaging how you're going to feel the entire time, but you are taking advantage of how impactful that element of the situation is. You're going to be on a road trip, but you actually don't know where you're going or how you're going to get there. You could spend that whole time freaking out, regretting decisions and judging yourself for doing everything wrong and judging everybody else in the car. That could be a very easy default to slip into. And that's what happens to us a lot of times when we're in periods of transition and we haven't made any decisions about how we want it to go or how we want our experience to be. We just end up having the usually pretty stressful experience that we default into. And the second tip for planning for transitions and uncertainty is deprioritize things. So when you're in a groove, when you're in your routine, you can multitask. You can add in more things to do. You can have big new ideas and take on new commitments because you're operating from that solid, grounded baseline. When your routines are upended and you're outside your usual grounding norms, it can take more energy to do less stuff because all of a sudden that handy dandy autopilot that's running a lot of our lives is not running a lot of our lives. we're using a lot more mental energy to make new decisions we don't normally have to make or to process information we don't normally have to process. So, what you have to do to preserve your mental energy and not burn yourself out is be very specific about what is not allowed to drain your brain battery during these times. It can be really helpful to write this down so that you can see it physically, officially, signed, sealed, delivered on paper. This is what we are not planning, starting, finishing, worrying about. This is the official list of what has been deprioritized because our resources are going to need to be freed up for other things. And don't limit this just to big projects. I mean, if you had planned on repainting and redecorating your entire living room and now there's this surprise change you're dealing with, yes, put that on the list so you don't feel this background pressure to be doing this huge project that you don't need to do and can't do right now. But I also want you to think about, what might I start nagging myself about? What might I start judging myself for not doing? Or not doing as consistently or perfectly. Those are the opportunities to get really specific with yourself about, oh, yeah, we're not doing that, or we're not caring about that, or we're taking that from A+ standards to C- for the month. And that's A-okay. Because remember, we're not just saving you time and energy on doing things that you don't need to prioritize. We're saving you time and energy on judging yourself for how things are going and worrying and stressing about how things are going. The third thing you're going to do to plan more intentionally for periods of transition and dealing with uncertainty is anticipate your needs. This is where I need you to get a little introspective, a little self-aware, and really consider without judgment, how do I handle change? What tends to happen when I am dealing with uncertainty? I'm going to need you to take that information into consideration so you can manage your self expectations and get/ask for what you need. So let's talk about some examples. If you're like me, you might have some anxiety, and that anxiety might get a little extra spicy when there are lots and lots of unknowns that you're dealing with all at once, coexisting with, as we say. So if you know that, how can you address it? Not to solve it, but to support it. I told you we just went through this whole surprise period of transition and processing change in my life. What it means for me that might be helpful for you as well is making sure my schedule's not overloaded, really making sure I take off everything bonus, extra, not time sensitive. And I've gotten really good at making those decisions quickly without drama. Like, nope, this isn't the most important thing today. Bye. Don't worry. If that's not super easy for you, we can work on it. I also make sure that I take a lot more walks. If you have anxiety, you feel it in your body. So I have to make sure I'm taking these kind of decompression walks where I'm not thinking, I'm just letting my body process all of the extra cortisol that it's built up over the last 20 minutes or hour or whatever. And then depending on how long this period of transition or dealing with uncertainty might be, I really have to carefully moderate any big projects or big decisions I take on. Because I'm a person who likes throwing my whole self into something and getting all up in it, dreaming about it, and wake up thinking about it. Usually fun for me, except for if I'm in a state of heightened anxiety. And that's when I start feeling like, oh, I would be doing this thing really well and be really excited about it and be doing a good job, but I'm not fully available for that. So now I feel like I'm half-assing stuff, letting myself down, and taking energy away from this other processing I need. So that's a personal example. But you can see these are very specific, not complicated, very accessible ways that I can feel like I supporting myself, knowing how I tend to react to transition and uncertainty. And that's what I really want you to be able to do. Get really specific about it. Don't just stop at, oh, I need to prioritize self-care this week, or I need to make sure I support myself. What does that look like? Get the extra stuff off your calendar. Make sure that you're walking 10 times more often than you normally would. Great. That's specific. We can do that. Let's say that you are a person who tends to get easily overwhelmed when you're dealing with a lot of transition or uncertainty. How can you support that? Maybe you just anchor yourself to a couple of key things that work for you. Don't take on any new life habits here and give yourself more work to do, but think about what supports you in how you react to change and uncertainty. If you're in overwhelm, what helps you prevent that or get out of it? Maybe you commit to doing a 90-second morning meditation Maybe you anchor to taking a real lunch break where you really stop working and you really eat food and it really is more than 7 minutes long. So think about what supports you and feels easy enough and commit to that. If you're a person who tends to snowball when you're dealing with lots of unknowns and lots of questions, maybe you ask your partner to start having daily check ins with you so that you guys can get on the same page. You both agree to it so you know what's going to happen every day. So you don't have to worry about snowballing for 6 days before you get any new information. So this tip starts with just tuning in to how do I tend to react to transitions, to uncertainty, to change. And then temporarily not making it a problem. Temporarily don't make it a goal to change this about yourself. All right. We can change what you want to change over time. Absolutely. Right now, today, facing this period of change or uncertainty, what can you do to support how you already are reacting, even if you don't like it? And the fourth thing you're going to do to start planning a little more intentionally for these periods of time is communicate your expectations. If other people are going to be around, or especially if other people are going to be involved in this period of change or uncertainty, you don't want to fall into the trap of idealizing how you would like it to go or subconsciously making plans on how you think it's gonna go and then having all of those plans and hopes and dreams thwarted because the other person had different ideas and didn't read your mind. And now you're disappointed and you're more stressed and there's even more chaos. What is a huge help for a lot of clients, we're having these conversations in our sessions. We're looking ahead at, oh, okay, so and so is going to be dealing with a big work situation soon, or somebody's going to be coming home after being out of town for several months, or even, hey, the kids are going back to school and our normal things that we're responsible for are going to be switching from summer mode into fall mode. Something that helps hugely is for people to simply verbally acknowledge with their partner, hey, there's a period of transition coming up. We have anticipatable change on the horizon. Let's make a plan so we can navigate these waters as smoothly as possible, even if there happen to be a couple thunderstorms. So you can actually have a conscious conversation where you both acknowledge, oh yeah, things are changing soon. And then you get to think about and voice your concerns, your desires, your hopes, your requests, your boundaries. This can get all the way down to the nitty-gritty of when Kenny was coming back from working in Hungary for 4 months, we were talking through anticipating how the transition period would go when he was first back. And one of the things I said was, okay, I'm just thinking through my expectations and I just want to let you know what I'm thinking so that we can get on the same page about them or make a plan that works for both of us. And something that was on my mind was, oh, yeah, I'm not going to do any of your laundry. I was very scared about the amount. He had a laundry machine in his apartment in Budapest. I don't know why I thought 4 months of laundry were going to come back with him. These are our anxious brains sometimes, you guys. They don't have to make sense. And we love them anyway for it. But even as nitty gritty as that, my expectation is that this is what's going to happen and this is what's not going to happen. How does that sound to you? Is that your expectation? If you have desires or requests or questions, part of what we worked out was he had all of his gear with him. For anybody new here, hi, new friends. My husband is a camera operator, so he was just working on a show in Budapest for several months. So a question I had was, all right, how full is our place going to be of gear? For how long do you anticipate? This can really help you avoid so many miscommunications, disappointments, surprise responsibilities that you didn't know you were responsible for. It can just help life be so much easier. And I want you to remember, as we're taking stock of all these tools and ideas, the goal here is not to micromanage our experience, because these times that you're dealing with change, that you're dealing with questions and unknowns, they aren't going to be completely controllable and plannable and schedulable. I know, I'm there with you. It's unfortunate. We love a plan, but you can be less stressed by them and have an actually better experience of them. Feel more clarity, feel more peace of mind, feel more intentional, feel less constantly activated, constantly drained. And you deserve that. What you don't deserve is to go through these periods of time over and over and over again and always feel like you should be getting more done. You shouldn't be as tired or emotionally activated as you are. Basically, you should be having some different experience. When I'm talking to clients who are mid transition or they are mid uncertainty, they're in the messy middle and they don't feel like they're doing a stellar job. When we talk through it in a session, most of the time we find out they actually are. They are doing a stellar job. The things that need to get done are getting done. They are actually taking care of themselves. They are actually saying no to things that they don't want to do or they don't have time for. But they've slipped into judging their present experience by past standards. They think, well, on a normal Tuesday, I'm this productive and I feel this and I get this much done. So why should this Tuesday be different? But once we lay all of the cards out on the table and we get honest and a little more objective, they're able to say, oh, you know what? I shouldn't be having a different experience of this. It is okay and normal and valid that I have less mental energy available for a million things that I'm usually juggling. Or it is okay and normal and valid that I'm not being as responsive to friends or reaching out to people or volunteering to take care of a bunch of stuff. It is okay and valid and normal that I feel like I'm prioritizing myself a lot these days because, yes, this is the plan. This is what you need right now to get through this period of time, liking your decisions, being on your own team, and adjusting to the changes in the questions that you're dealing with. So I hope this episode helps you deal with changes in questions more intentionally, more consciously, a little bit more powerfully. And I would love to hear if it does. So make sure we're friends on Instagram at KP Coaching or on TikTok at The Decision Coach. Let me know if you're going through a period of transition or dealing with a bunch of questions right now. Which one of these tips are you going to try this week? What's the impact? And if you are looking at the end of the year and you do have a bunch of change coming up or a bunch of uncertainty and you do want to handle it intentionally, you do want to navigate it with some sense of being grounded and staying aligned with what matters and not letting everything fly off the rails, then book your consult to talk about coaching together. This is what we can plan for. We can set you up for success. And then step by step through this transition, we can make sure you're paying attention to what you want to, you're not paying attention to what you don't want to, and you're doing the things you need to do to create the results you want. If you want to talk about coaching, go book your consult right now. It's free, kirstenparker.com/schedule, and I'll see you next week. Hey, want to find out your decision style? Obviously, go take the decision style quiz. It's in the show notes and at kirstenparker.com/quiz. We all have our style when it comes to making decisions, but do you know how to use your default way of thinking to your advantage? Or do you mainly get stuck in the most annoying parts of overthinking and people pleasing? The decision style quiz has your answers, my friend. Take it right now at kirstenparker.com/quiz.